that victimization, that self-loathing, that defeatist. I hate that. That's not what Patrice Lumumba was saying in that freaking speech. He wasn't talking like how you talking, buddy. He said, we made this, we took this back. They would have kept on doing what they were doing if it wasn't for us stopping them. And we are equals. You're not a ruler of me. And they was like, say word. Say word. Bet that. Keep that same energy. Why are they driving over motorcycles? What is going on? Nearly 100 dirt bikes and all-terrain vehicles confiscated by NYPD were bulldozed Tuesday in New York City. I don't know. That just seems really retarded to me. It seems like a huge waste of resources. Like there was nothing else you could have done with those other than drive over them in some spectacle. What a huge waste of money. And then it's freaking probably poor people, like regular folks, money. It says nearly 100 dirt bikes and all-terrain vehicles confiscated by the NYPD were bulldozed Tuesday in New York City's Brooklyn borough. Mayor Eric Adams called the vehicles, which are illegal on the city streets, extremely dangerous. That dude there, bro. That dude there. It's like I said before. Like it seems like you gotta be one of the most hated people on the planet to become New York mayor. Like, I don't like that guy. Just the way he looks, the way he talks, the way he moves. Oh, he's a terrible, terrible person. Maybe he's not. I don't know him in person, right? But by the way, what I see on TV and the stuff he says, I remember his campaign. I remember when he was telling parents to look in your kids under their bed and in their closet and stuff and look for drugs and weapons because they probably got them and shit. Like, this guy is a real freaking piece of work. It says, why not resell these to other states or countries where more rural and accepted and pocket the funds from municipalities, right? It doesn't make any sense. That was the first comment underneath the CBS News clip. What a waste. So many people in India, China, Africa could use those bikes. Anywhere, freaking Mexico, wherever you want to freaking Nevada, Arkansas, Arizona. Another comment, it says, why be environmentally friendly when you can just create more waste? I know. Totally wasteful. Totally wasteful. Is that it, or I just can't scroll? Whatever, let's move on. Where are you guys? People are mad at me. Like I say, man, it's going to be conflict here. I apologize, but we're all about growth, and it's going to be a bit painful. Growth is a bit painful, man. It takes fucking diligence. It takes, continued freaking endurance and creativity, and you have to continue to innovate and react to your surroundings and circumstances and use the resources you have available to continue to flourish so that life can continue forever. And that's just what it is. The universe is rooting for you to be successful too, against all odds. And that's what it is. But it's painful, it's hard, it's not easy. It's a struggle every day. This is that clip about the guy after working at Burger King for 27 years. Employee was rewarded a bag of Reese's, 2 pens, and a Starbucks cup. I think I played some of this clip in the other video. It's just sad. Let's go on. Let's get to it. You guys don't know who Patrice Lumumba is or was.
On the 17th of January 1961, Patrice Lumumba, the first Prime Minister of the Democratic Republic of Congo, was assassinated. Described as one of the most significant assassinations in modern African history, this heinous crime is widely believed to have been the fruit of two interrelated conspiracies which were led by the US and Belgian governments. To truly appreciate the historical importance of Lumumba's death, it is important to understand three things. 1. The global context in which the assassination took place. 2. Lumumba's status as a revolutionary nationalist leader. And 3. The long-term impact of his death on Congolese politics. From the late 1800s to the early 1990s, the US and Belgium were arguably two of the most important external forces in the shaping of Congo's destiny. From as early as 7 months before the infamous Berlin Conference of 1884, in which European powers gathered to divide and allocate various African regions to themselves, the US was the first world power to formally recognize the ownership claims made by Belgium's King Leopold II to the territories of the Congo Basin. In 1885, King Leopold established what was then known as the Congo Free State, which he would rule in his own personal capacity, completely separate from his role as the constitutional head of the Belgian government. King Leopold and his men would go on to brutally exploit the people of the so-called Congo Free State and commit all kinds of atrocities in their bid to profit from the region's natural resources. Putting in place a system of forced labor all across the territory, King Leopold would unleash a reign of terror in which rape, mutilations, and mass killings became the order of the day. Although scholars disagree on the exact figures, the most commonly cited death tolls range from between 5 to 10 million deaths during the 21 years that the Congo Free State was ruled by King Leopold. By way of comparison, the total death toll of the Nazi Holocaust was between 6 to 11 million, but for various reasons, the atrocities of King Leopold in the Congo Free State are nowhere near as well known. Reacting to the public outcry following the revelations of King Leopold's atrocities in Congo, the US joined other world powers in calling for the Belgian government to seize control of the Congo Free State and turn it into a Belgian colony. Belgium eventually took colonial control of Congo in 1908 and would rule the country until its independence in 1960. During the colonial period, the US acquired a very significant stake in the vast natural wealth of the Congo and is believed to have used uranium sourced from Congolese mines to manufacture the atomic bombs that were dropped in the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki at the end of World War II. With the outbreak of the Cold War shortly after World War II, which saw the US and its allies square up to the fast-growing Soviet Union and its anti-capitalist agenda, the Western powers could not afford to allow the Soviet Union to gain access to strategic raw materials such as those found in the Congo and other African countries. From a US perspective, there could not have been a more risky time for African nations to gain independence than the late 1950s and 60s. With the Cold War in full swing and the host of African leaders expressing their approval for Soviet-style economics, the US government needed to act fast and decisively in order to protect its global interests. And it is for this very reason that Patrice Lumumba's push in the late 1950s for Congo to gain genuine independence and sovereign control of its resources placed him in direct opposition to Western interests. Shortly after his election as the first Prime Minister of the newly independent Congo, he was faced with an army revolt, and secessionist rebel groups from Congo's mineral-rich provinces began to wreak havoc on the country. Belgium sent in troops supposedly to protect Belgian nationals living in the Congo, but it was widely believed that the Belgian troops were actually working to strengthen the rebels. Lumumba appealed to the United Nations to expel the Belgians and deploy UN peacekeeping troops to help repress the rebels. But with the United Nations unwilling to act quickly to help suppress the rebels, Lumumba appealed to the Soviet Union for military equipment to assist his troops in their fight to restore internal order. This move would set the Western powers into panic mode, and the CIA, MI6, and Belgian security operatives would all allegedly begin plotting to bring an end to his premiership. In their bid to get rid of him and all that he stood for, the American and Belgian governments are believed to have conspired to deploy all the tools and resources at their disposal, including the United Nations Secretariat under Dag Hammarskjöld and Ralph Bunche, to buy the support of Lumumba's Congolese rivals. Within just under 7 months after the country gained independence from Belgium and his appointment as the country's first prime minister, Patrice Lumumba was seized and executed by Belgian and Congolese operatives of the newly installed military government led by the infamous Mobutu Sese Seko, a government whose entry into power is believed to have been backed by the US and Belgian governments, acting in collaboration with key UN officials. The execution was swift but brutal. Lumumba, along with two of his associates, Maurice Umpolo and Joseph Okito, were lined up against a tree and shot one at a time. The execution is believed to have taken place on the 17th of January 1961 at around 9:40 p.m. The full details of how the bodies were disposed of are simply too shocking to be described in this video. With Lumumba eliminated, the Mobutu regime would go on to pay nothing more than lip service to the ideals of national unity, economic independence, and Pan-African solidarity, which have been championed by Lumumba, shattering the hopes and aspirations of the millions of Congolese who had placed their faith in the great leader. The assassination was against the backdrop of great political turmoil, as the country was greatly divided, with 4 separate governments, all laying claim to legitimate control of the territory. The first was the central government in Kinshasa, which was then called Leopoldville. The second was a rival central government led by Lumumba's followers in Kisangani, formerly known as Stanleyville, while the third and fourth were led by secessionist leaders hailing from the mineral-rich provinces of Katanga and South Kasai. As the physical elimination of Lumumba had removed what Western powers saw as the major threat to their interests in the Congo, they subsequently directed their energies towards restoring and growing the authority of the pro-Western regime in Kinshasa over the entire country, and effectively snuffed out the Lumumba-inspired rival Kisangani government in August 1961. The other 2 rival governments would also subsequently be snuffed out. The South Kasai regime was disbanded in 1962, while the Katanga secessionist group was suppressed in January 1963. With the unrivaled support of his Western allies, the Mobutu regime would go on to rule Congo with an iron fist for over 3 decades, unleashing an almost unrivaled reign of corruption, terror, and financial mismanagement that would plague the country for years to come. Due to his relatively short political career, the full impact of Lumumba's legacy could be rather hard to fully quantify. His death in 1961 was seen as a huge blow to African nationalist movements at the time, but it ultimately fanned the fire amongst other African revolutionaries to continue in their fight against imperialism. Numerous historians have also cited his death as a major contributing factor to the radicalization of the American civil rights movement in the 1960s. And even till today, Patrice Lumumba continues to be revered as a symbolic representation of the Pan-African struggle for liberation, and his ideas have been canonized in a political ideology known as Lumumbism, a complex doctrine which can be best described as a combination of nationalism, Pan-Africanism, and social progressivism. His life may have been brutally cut short, but his spirit certainly lives on. Once again, it's KB Taiwo for New Africa. Please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time.
Man, if y'all don't know the Patrice Lumumba story, that broke it down really good. That was a great video. New Africa is the name of the channel. Let's read some comments. It says, "We Africans must study and understand African history." Another comment, it says, "I'm from Egypt, and I must say that I am deeply disappointed that we do not learn about Lumumba in school. He is a true African hero, an inspiration for an entire continent." Another comment, it says, "Being of Congolese descent, I seriously think the man's death eventually resulted in millions of deaths, including my family members." Ooh. The evil committed in Africa has not well been documented. Another comment, it says, "Sending love from Scotland to all of Africa. Lumumba and Sankara are 2 of the most incredible leaders of all time, who truly cared about their people and were completely unselfish. I hate that in the West we are not taught about all of the amazing things in Africa. We are only taught about the poverty. yet it was Western interference that caused it. And that's what I be screaming all the time. And if people were just more educated, it's so clear. They be like, oh, they just can't get their shit together. African countries can't get their shit together. Venezuela can't get their shit together. Guatemala can't get their shit together. You don't know what you're talking about. Let me read some more. It says, Leopoldville, Jesus Christ, that is like having a city in Poland named Hitlerville. Psst. Let me read another one. It says, African history makes me angry. I've been to Congo and seen how scared the nation is. Belgians and U.S. citizens control the minds and the nation to date. So much civil unrest in the region, and the poverty in the region is extreme. It's inhuman what the West does to us. More comments. As an Irishman, that was incredibly interesting. I know next to nothing about African history apart from being taught the basics of imperialism in school, where it's almost presented as a good thing. It was very interesting to see the history from the other side. Itchy. Let me read some more. As an Ethiopian, I dream not only of the rise of Eastern Africa, but also the rise of unified Congo, destined to be a global power in the New World Order. As for today, it's just a dream, but but by the grace of God, one day in coming generations, this might be made a reality. Another comment. In Belgrade, the capital of Serbia, we have a street and student dorm named after him, Patrice Lumumba. Thank you for this. Recently, my girlfriend was telling me about reading she was doing about electric vehicles and how that demand leads to child labor in the Congo, who produce more cobalt than anywhere else, and went really into detail about how many resources are there we depend on. Having not long before learned about how pretty much every socialist and or non-pro-US imperialism leader in South America and the Middle East gets assassinated by the CIA, I said, why is such a mineral rich nation in such terrible shape? I'm willing to bet they elected a socialist who was not as keen on letting the Western world exploit their resources, and the US assassinated them and destabilized the region for leverage. Turns out I was right. Another comment, it says Iranians empathize. The CIA destroyed our democratically elected government wants to. Congo democratically elect first prime minister of the West. That's illegal. Um, Getting greetings from Turkey. I pray that one day Africa will be truly independent. Africa has been an expendable stomping ground of the West for centuries. It's horrible to think of all the culture, literature, and natural wonder that has been burned for our benefit. I work as a primatologist in the Ivory Coast, Uganda, DRC, and South Africa for 15 years. Another comment. His endings remind me so much of that Thomas Sankara and Kampori, that traitor. But one must not ignore the fact that Western powers have shaped the way in which Africa has developed itself, and also the way it's developing itself in today's time. As youth and population, we need to thoroughly study our history to understand that modern diplomacy does not work in Africa. It's a foreign system. It has never aided us in anything, only totally backwardness. That's a fact. And even creating further divide than it should have. This is my channel. My kids and husbands love it. And now I'm setting weekends tests for video series. So you just said some stuff just to make people mad so they can go to your channel? Because your comment was ass. Let me read some more. It says, we will never fully know the atrocities these people have done to us. There's so much history on this channel that I've not been exposed to in my 32 years on the planet. Only found your channel about an hour ago, but this is my third video. Thanks for the information. Subscribed. I woke up in the morning in Germany when I was in the army, when the Congolese took back their country's particularly the soldiers who were African Americans. I was still overseas when Lumumba was assassinated. It was a very sad moment for African Americans military personnel. Another one, it says, we have always been painted this picture of World War One and World War Two, where forces of good joins hands to eradicate evil. But when I read about British, French, Belgium colonization, it made me realize there were Hitlers in all those countries. Thank you for sharing this with us all the way from Sri Lanka. Couple more comments because these are good. It's heartbreaking and at the same time revolting to hear about how that country had been pillaged, oftentimes with the help of those who sold out to the enemies. A Congolese young man once told me, the African man is a traitor to himself. Patrice Lumumba, you are a hero. Rest in peace, brother. Another comment. Thank you for sharing this excellent presentation. The CIA were involved in assassinating Patrice Lumumba and Dag Hammarskjöld, both in 1961, and JFK 2 years later. In the U.S., our CIA military joint chiefs, FBI, and the American oligarchy they serve then facilitate and/or carry out assassinations of Malcolm X, MLK, and RFK within a 5-year period beginning with JFK's murder in 1963. These forces publicly murder the entire top tier of progressive leadership in the nation, completing America's transition to a post-democratic fascist state, essentially run by institutional deep state actors and institutions serving oligarchy. It is impossible to understand the violent amoral monstrosity that is America today without understanding these events that took place during my youth. Whoa, heavy, 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 heavy comment. That comment might get me in trouble. I was just reading a comment, you guys. Hey, I'm a journalist. Let me read some more. It says, the overthrow of Lumumba and democracy in Congo could only succeed with the help of Congoleses like Mobutu and Tshombe. Important point. This is how it happens usually. I am Belgian. I have never heard of the real Congo history in school, so I'm glad to learn it and see the dark things that all countries have done, including mine. What an immeasurable tragedy. My heart goes out to anyone who lives in the Congo. I can't even imagine experiencing the terror throughout its history firsthand. By far my favorite channel, the content, So happy to read from this global community. I wonder what happened and I appreciate the synopsis. It is hard to forgive these people who speak out of both sides of their orifices. Unity and understanding of human conditions is what is needed. Now, all conscious people can unite in the power struggle that have separated us. Awesome comment. That was a really good video for Patrice Lumumba. I have some more. I only had watched a clip of that. I didn't realize how really good it was. Like, that guy broke that down really well and in a short amount of time. But y'all get the benefit of me being able to freaking look this stuff up. His speech. Who is Patrice Lumumba, Congo's independent hero? Let's hear. I think this one is a speech. Let's hear a speech.
As the Belgians and the Americans sought to maintain their influence over the area, both countries also saw Lumumba as a threat.
Wait, no, that's breaking it down. That other video broke it down really well. So I don't see a point in watching another video that breaks it down. Are they gonna play it? Or are they just gonna play sound? The ceremony of proclamation of Congo's King of Belgians gave the first speech of the event and said, Congo's independence marks the outcome of the work conceived by the genius of King Leopold II, which he undertook with tenacious courage and with Belgians has continued. Oh, my eyes are burning. When Leopold II undertook the great work which today finds his crown and glory, he did not present himself to you as a conqueror, but as a civilizer. Okay. Don't compromise the future with hasty reforms, and don't replace the structures that Belgium hands over to you until you are sure you can do better. For the Congolese audience, Boudin's speech was patronizing at best, but the King of Belgium would not have the last words of the day. Following a speech of Joseph Kasavubu, something unexpected happened. Patrice Lumumba was invited to speak, and his speech would go down in history. Unlike Kasavubu, he addressed his speech to the Congolese, not the Belgians. Men and women of the Congo, combatants who are now victorious in their fight for independence, I salute you in the name of the Congolese government. This is Patrice Lumumba talking. With the address, Lumumba brought his people from the margins to the. Contradicting Boudin, he asserted the independence was won, not given. No Congolese worthy of the name can ever forget that it was a struggle that we have won our independence in which no effort, provision, suffering, or drop of our blood was spared. He then went on to describe some of the realities of colonization. We have known jeers and insults, endured blows morning, noon, and night because we Negroes. We have seen our land seized under the terms of what's supposedly the law of the land. We can forget the volleys of gunfire in which so many of our brothers perished. The cells where the authorities threw those who would not submit to a rule where justice meant oppression. We have not forgotten that the laws was never the same for the white and the black, that it was lenient to the former but cruel and inhumane to the latter. That was our lot for the 80 years of colonial rule. Our wounds are too fresh and too painful to be forgotten. But we who are elected to guide our native land, we have suffered in body and soul from the colonial oppression. We tell you that henceforth all that finished with. The woman's speech was interrupted 8 times by sustained applause. Even those who listened over the radio were overtaken with pride. Boudin returned in Belgium personally offended by Lumumba's speech, and the Western media criticized it with Guardian calling it offensive. Lumumba's speech set in motion a series of events that led to his assassination. In 1996, Malcolm X said the following about Patrice Lumumba's famous speech. It was the greatest speech. You should take the speech and tack it up on your door. This is what Lumumba said. You aren't giving us anything. And in reference to the man himself, Malcolm said, Lumumba is the greatest black man who ever walked an African continent. He didn't fear anybody. He had those people so scared they had to kill him. 3 years earlier, on January 17, 1961, Patrice Lumumba, he was 35 years old when died just 7 months after his independence speech. Damn, 7 months. A powerful ass fucking speech take you to death 7 months later. I think JFK did a speech like that too. Oh my God, you gotta be careful what you say out here in America, huh? Let me read some comments. This was a post by Spotlight by Litteranda Landra. I don't know what the hell this is. I randomly found this. I thought it was going to be the audio version of the speech. I'm sure it's out there somewhere. It's got to be. On June 30th, 1960, the Democratic Republic of the Congo gained its independence from Belgium. The first democratically elected prime minister of the new republic gave a speech in the independence commemoration ceremony, and many believe that it was the boldest, if not the greatest speech to ever be given on the topic of freedom from colonialism. Why didn't they do a transcript of the speech? Like they only did clips of the speech. I really want to hear the speech now. I'm probably gonna have to look that up. Let me read some more comments. It says, we know very little about the world, which has been kept hidden to us, and we only know the white leaders in Western countries' history. Huge respect to Patrice Lumumba, who lived merely 35 years, but a great and impacting life. He was not a coward. Unfortunately, some around him were traitors. Nothing made my blood boil more to see him physically abused by his own black brothers in military uniform. Surely this proves their love for their oppressors and hatred of self. The speech needs to be mandatory curriculum in all HBCUs and universities in Africa. It should be mandatory curriculum in all fucking universities, period. And the other comment, I didn't like that when they always make it look like that. Like same thing with Malcolm X. And see, y'all have to understand that this is a point of division because you said in your comment, Nothing made my blood boil more to see him physically abused by his own black brothers in military uniform. And he said, surely this proves their love for their oppressors and hatred of self. See, the thing is, although those people in that situation with Patrice Lumumba and with Malcolm X, these people, I'll say all skinfolk and kinfolk, but these people weren't necessarily what you're saying. These people were looking out for themselves. They weren't looking at it the same way you are. Just because you have a perspective on the world doesn't mean that everybody looks at the world in that way. Not saying I'm not trying to defend what these people did. They're pieces of shit for sell. You sell out your brother. That's pretty fucking shitty for a fucking paycheck. You know what I'm saying? Or for some damn privileges. That's some whole ass shit. But you see it happen out here on the street all the time. And so it's not what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? Necessarily. It could be, but not necessarily. Let me read some more. It says, the fact that the King of Belgium was offended by the speech shows that it was good. And maybe what got him killed. Immortal gracias. Patrice Lumumba. Seguiremos la lucha. The truth is offense. The truth is an offense, but not a sin. Robert Nesto. They killed him because he was African revolutionary rising star. Imagine feeling offended when someone calls you out on your cruel and inhuman bullshit. They killed him because he was an African hero, a revolutionary rising star. The hell's... Oh, that's the same person. They wanted to make sure we heard it, I guess. Greatest speech of all time. Let's look up the fucking speech. Can we find the speech? It was Patrice. Hold on. Patrice Lumumba speech. Come on. Independence Day speech, a few speeches. It looks like it's just like that one I just watched. There's no audio of the speech? You gotta be kidding me.
Few speeches have marked our history as much as that given by the Congress of modern Congo. The key moment.
Vous salue au nom du gouvernement de l'indépendance.
By the assassination of the man considered in Congo to be the country's first national hero.
Combattant de l'indépendance, aujourd'hui victorieux. Je vous salue au nom du gouvernement congolais. À vous tous, mes amis, qui avez lutté sans relâche à nos côtés, je vous demande de faire de ce 30 juin 1960 une date illustre que vous garderez ineffaçablement gravée dans vos cœurs, une date dont vous enseignerez avec fierté la signification à vos enfants, pour que ceux-ci, à leur tour, fassent connaître à leurs fils et à leurs petits-fils l'histoire glorieuse de notre lutte pour la liberté. La République du Congo a été proclamée et notre cher pays est maintenant entre les mains de ses propres enfants. Ensemble, mes frères, mes sœurs, nous allons commencer une nouvelle lutte, une lutte sublime qui va mener notre pays à la paix, à la prospérité et à la grandeur. Nous allons établir ensemble la justice sociale et assurer que chacun reçoive la juste rémunération de son travail. Nous avons connu les ironies, les insultes, les coups que nous devions subir matin, midi et soir, parce que nous étions des nègres. Qui oubliera qu'à un noir, on disait tu, non certes comme à un ami, mais parce que les voix honorables étaient réservées aux seuls blancs. Nous avons connu que nos terres furent spoliées au nom des textes prétendument légaux qui ne faisaient que reconnaître les droits du plus fort. Nous avons connu que la loi n'était jamais la même, selon qu'il s'agissait d'un blanc ou d'un noir, accommodante pour les uns, cruelle et inhumaine pour les autres. Nous avons connu les souffrances atroces des relégués pour opinion politique ou croyances religieuses. Exilés dans leur propre patrie, leur sort était vraiment pire que la mort elle-même. Nous avons connu qu'il y avait dans les villes des maisons magnifiques pour les blancs et des paillotes croulantes pour les noirs. Que les noirs n'étaient admis dans les cinémas, ni dans les restaurants, ni dans les magasins européens. Que les noirs voyageaient à même la coque de péniche, au pied du blanc dans sa cabine de luxe. Qui oubliera enfin les fusillades où périrent tant de nos frères. Les cachons furent brutalement jetés, ceux qui ne voulaient plus se soumettre au régime d'injustice, d'oppression et d'exploitation.
A lot of people didn't clap. You could feel the tension.
Cette indépendance du Congo, si elle est proclamée aujourd'hui dans l'entente avec la Belgique, pays ami avec qui nous traitons d'égal à égal, ni les Congolais digne de ce nom ne pourra jamais oublier cependant que c'est par la lutte qu'elle a été conquise. Une lutte de tous les jours, une lutte ardente et idéaliste, une lutte dans laquelle nous n'avons mélangé ni nos forces, ni nos privations, ni nos souffrances, ni notre sang. Cette lutte qui fut de larmes, de feu et de sang, nous en sommes fiers jusqu'au plus profond de nous-mêmes, car ce fut une lutte noble et juste, une lutte indispensable pour mettre fin à l'humiliant esclavage qui nous était imposé par la force. Ce qui fut notre sort à 80 ans du régime colonialiste. Nos blessures sont trop fraîches et trop douloureuses encore pour que nous puissions les chasser de notre mémoire. Quand nous avons connu le travail harassant, exigé en échange de salaires qui ne nous permettaient ni de manger à notre faim, ni de nous vêtir ou nous loger décemment, ni d'élever nos enfants comme des êtres chers. Hommage aux combattants de la liberté nationale. Vive l'indépendance et l'unité africaine. Vive les Congo indépendants et souverains.
Oh, man, that fucking hits, bro. It fucking hits, bro. All these years later, it fucking hits. Bro, he touched them people, he pissed them people off. That's the reason why they went and fucking killed his ass, bro. You can't talk like that, man. You can't tell those kind of truths. Look how true it is today, man. The people heard that shit he said and they was like, say word? Say word? Oh, equals? Say word? Okay, that's a bet. Man, look at the Congo today, y'all. Oh, man. I need a minute. This is the caption underneath the video. The name of this video is Patrice Lumumba Independence Day Speech. It says English subtitles. I didn't read it had the captions on the screen. I didn't read it out loud because I really didn't want to mess up him speaking in a native tongue. Well, not native tongue, but the original tongue. So it's always better to hear the words, in the tongue that they speak them. You know what I'm saying? Even if you don't understand the language or whatever. Anyways, let me read. This is the caption underneath that video. KM Media posted this. It says, "Few speeches have marked our history as much as the given by the little. Few speeches have marked our history as much as that given by the Congolese Prime Minister Patrice Lumumba on June 30th, 1960. Today, on that day achieved its independence." I cannot freaking talk. I'm still all fucked up from the speech. This speech could be considered the birth certificate of modern Congo, a country that was then emerging from 80 years of colonialism and which looked with confidence to its future. In Africa, the speech is considered one of the key moments in propelling the continent onto the international stage. In the West, many have seen it as a call to arms, opening up Belgian Congolese hostilities, plunging the former Belgian colony into chaos. A chaos marked by the fall of Lumumba government in 1960 and the following year by the assassination of the man considered in Congo to be the country's first national hero. Let me read some comments underneath there. It says, "Please, Congolese people, keep the spirit of this man alive in your country." It says, "It's really hard in 2020 to grasp the powerful nerve and audacity to deliver this speech in that time with several obviously powerful displeased races. That's the kind of nerve we need from black leaders around the world." It says, "RP to a great leader. I wish in U.S. schools we were taught more about African history. It's shameful that we are not. The fate of humanity lies with the fate of Africa." What a man Patrice Lumumba was. He will never be forgotten. This speech should have been said to all colonial powers, and for the audacity of saying it that killed him, but not his idealism, which lives on and will continue to inspire all lovers of freedom. It says, "From Egypt, he was and still hero that all Africans should be proud of. A true hero, man. The speech made me cry. Long live Patrice Lumumba. Love from Trinidad and Tobago." Wow, we learned about such speeches. It's encouraging to hear such powerful man. Wake up, Africa. The world has never changed. We need to be aware of all kinds of schemes of the enemies. A true hero of our world. His life is an example for all justice seekers. My respect to Patrice Lumumba. Long live Congo. Long live Africa. Great speech by a great African. The spirit of Patrice Emery Lumumba lives on. Down with Belgium, down with America, down with France, down with imperialism. What a heart-rending but uplifting, eloquent Independence Day speech. Not one word of a lie, just the unadorned truth. No one around today, let's see, of the same caliber. R.P. Braveheart. Because they killed them all. Death took away one of the very best African leaders of all time. Shame that Mobutu, who was fully involved, never did anything good for his country. May Patrice's soul live forever. And you wonder why. Where did he come from, Mobutu? Was he put in there by the people? Did he have the people's interests involved? You know, in his heart? Brought tears to my eyes. It was too early for him to attack the colonials in his maiden speech. He should have waited till he fully consolidated his post. He was too young and inexperienced. At least his advisors should have advised him of that. That is Africa. That is Congo, surrounded by so many countries and tribes. Anything can turn things around. So sad, a genius taken away from his people by his own people. See, there goes that own people shit again. I mean, it's true, but they were motivated by outside forces. So that makes me sad when I hear people say that. It's that victimization, that self-loathing, that defeatist. I hate that. That's not what Patrice Lumumba was saying in that freaking speech. He wasn't talking like how you talking, buddy. He said, we made this. We took this. We took this back. They would have kept on doing what they were doing if it wasn't for us stopping them. And we are equals. You're not a ruler of me. And they was like, say word. Say word. Bet that. Keep that same energy. Nah, keep that same energy.
Yeah. Just woke up.
Mad interesting to me. I was about to go to sleep and this just woke me up.